The Chiefs got right in San Francisco in the battle at the Bay by coming back and getting a win against the San Francisco 49ers after a game that put them on their butts. Last week, we're going to talk about the ins and outs, how they got it done, and where they go from here going into the bye. This is Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Locked On Chiefs. We are live post-game with Matt, Derek. Joining us from ChiefsDigest.com, Chris and I. We're brought to you by PrizePicks. It's the easiest way to get your money into the action. And just pick more or less simplified daily fantasy sports over at PrizePicks with our promo code Locked On. We're going to get into the details of this game. I think a redemption game, we're going to call that. I wish I could cue the Bob Marley. But we will get into all the details, who did and who didn't come to play. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as NFL33.com and RGR Football. Thanks for making us your first listen. Check out another Locked On show for your next listen today, because we're free on every platform.
Yes, we are, and thank you all for listening. We really do appreciate it. Chiefs head into a bye after a huge win, 44-23, I believe was the final score. You were sitting here in a situation where this game started off very poorly for Kansas City. I thought that it was going to get out of hand early. Glad to see that I was wrong on that.
Yeah. Does that surprise you, Matt? Like, we're used to them trailing. Nothing to be worried about now, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're 3-0 this year when trailing by 10 points at some point in the game. So par for the course. I mean, that's the one thing you know about this team, at least, is that deficits don't bother them. I mean, it doesn't matter when they are, how many seconds are left early in the game. It doesn't matter. I mean, let me know in the second half what's going on. I mean, things are going to change. I mean, and this was a perfect example of that. If you told me that by the beginning of the second half that the Chiefs would have this thing under control, at 10-0, I probably would have questioned you.
Yeah, I got to say, I was a little nervous there up front as well. I thought they had some balance in the pass game. Didn't quite have the balance they were trying to get to in the run game, but they did get a few things there, enough to keep the Niners honest. Overall, what we saw from the defense and keeping another team under 24 points, what we saw from the offense coming back, putting up more than 30, clearly those two scenarios will lead to a win. But this is the expectation for this team every week. I thought Mahomes delivered. I thought the acquired wide receivers delivered. I felt like a couple of the guys on the defense struggled at times, but the old dogs on the defense delivered as well, Matt. This was everybody coming together, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, other than it felt like that maybe the Chiefs were just thrown off a little bit early on. The first drive in particular, I mean, the defense did not look sharp at all. And maybe that was just a matter of not really, knowing what to expect, if McCaffrey was going to be in the game or not, or how they were going to use him. And, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, the 49ers stood the kitchen sink into this game. And I don't think that the Chiefs were expecting that from the very beginning. And I certainly wasn't expecting it either. I mean, this is... And I think this was a misstep by Kyle Shanahan. I might be surprised later on, but to me, I mean, an intra-conference game, it's a low-impact game. It's just not that big. And for the 49ers in their situation, and with all of the injuries that they've had, good grief, why don't you just take it easy with McCaffrey and take it easy with the injuries? Because they just shoved all their chips all in today. And this is what they got for it. They got their butts kicked. So I don't know if it's going to be a great move by Shanahan down the road. I mean, I think this game might end up resulting in a couple of losses for his team. But for the Chiefs, how can you not come off of this going into the bye week without just an extreme amount of confidence?
Well, they put up 30 points in the second half. It was 14-13 going to halftime. Butker missed a field goal, would have put them up by 4 going into half. But and a questionable penalty, I guess I will say, going into half as well. But scoring 30 points in the second half, I think that shows a lot of guts from this team. And honestly, MVS showed up today. He had big catches in both the first and the second half, and that's exactly what you need from him. He was the downfield threat that Kansas City really hasn't had this year so far. And McCole Hardman showed his speed in plays that weren't down the field. That was what impressed me.
It definitely seemed like McCole was a focus, a part of this. And I'll just set you up, Matt. Is this the McCole Hardman we've been waiting to see? It was a little bit through the air, but it was definitely behind the line of scrimmage as well.
I mean, this is exactly vintage McCole Hardman. I mean, the one aspect of McCole's game that you wish was there and just hasn't really been since his rookie season has been the deep ball. And that's kind of the mystery, because with his speed and everything, you would certainly expect that would be something that I think he would be better at this point than he was as a rookie. Whereas, I mean, as a rookie, he was hitting them all over the place, and that hasn't been there. But this is what Mecole Hardman can do, that speed and his elusiveness and what he can do at its best. So taking advantage of him, I mean, he had Deebo Samuel today. I mean,
right.
That was pretty much, I mean, he gave the 49ers a pretty heavy dose of their own medicine, and they couldn't handle it. So, I mean, this is Mecole Hardman at his best, though, I think.
And I just have to say this really quick because I loved the broadcasting with Greg Olson looking at the tight ends, specifically on those plays. Noah Gray, talking about how Noah Gray set it up, and he set it up on both. Set the defensive ends up on both plays, and they didn't touch the defensive end on those sweeps, which is exactly what you want. So great design by the Chiefs, great job of execution by the tight ends. And you on National Tight End Day, the tight ends are making huge plays. I was a little disappointed at the very end with Kelsey not being able to get his 100 yards for the day. But of all the things to be disappointed on, I'll take that one.
That last-minute attempt was clearly to keep the streak alive and make that. I do want to talk about the offense and clearly what these two game plans were going to involve, because I think it was very clear to me, specifically on the defensive end, what they were prepared for and what they weren't. And it did eventually end up working out to get there, but it's always a bit of a challenge. But first, I want to tell you about our newest sponsor. We're brought to you by Prediction Strike. They're the world's first sports stock market, that is, like ups, downs, how things move. It's an investment professional athlete, just like stocks. It's an alternative to sports betting. And it is based on performance and supply and demand. Right now, you get Rashad Penny. He's up 154%. Kyle Pitts is down. He's a good buy at this point, down 44%. And there's tons of options for you to look at and get in on the field to see what they're going to do. There's 2.5% trade fees. It's the lowest in real money sports. And this is just another way to take a look at what you want to do and putting some money out there on the sports that you know and love. It isn't just NFL. There is all kinds of other sports, particularly UFC, NBA, and MLB. There should be NHL, because you can always have an actual UFC fight break out in an NHL game. That nearly happened to me last night. That's always a lot of fun. Download the Prediction Strike app and use the code LOCKED for a free share when you sign up and make your first deposit of $20 or more. That's promo code LOCKED for a special one-time giveaway. Prediction Strike will choose one person who signs up for that code LOCKED and makes the deposit to win 100 free random shares. Then it could be worth up to $3,000 if you get lucky and receive Josh Allen shares, that he happens to be top rated right now. We'll see what happens after the rematch with this club. Invest now and you will know on Prediction Strike, the stock market for sports.
Whether you're looking to pop the question, have a milestone to celebrate, or want to let your love sparkle, BlueNile can help make your celebrations even more memorable. As the original online jeweler, BlueNile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. BlueNile has helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. Their easy online tool helps you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. BlueNile's bench jewelers will then help you handcraft your perfect one-of-a-kind engagement ring. Looking for a piece of fine jewelry to commemorate a special milestone, but still having trouble choosing? BlueNile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone call or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. Make your moment sparkle with BlueNile. Go to BlueNile.com and use code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON.
Now, when we take a step back, we're talking about Kelson trying to get to the 100 yards. It would have been nice to see, but in the end, it is about what he does, I think, to be the catalyst for this team, because when they were down 10-0, when they needed to get something going, they once again had to go to Travis. And I even put in my notes, after 3 drives, is this going to be another game where it's the Travis show and you're waiting for someone else to step out? It has to start with him. But this time they actually got to the point where they moved it around to the point that everybody was contributing big time plays, Matt. That's the thing that stands out to me. It wasn't, I think it was 9 guys caught passes today or were targeted. Not as much as we've seen in other games, but this is where actual chunk plays were contributed by someone who's not named Travis Kelce.
Yeah, and I think that's just critical, not only for this game, but just for going forward. And yeah, it felt like that early when the offense, especially on the first drive when Mahomes has what I mean really looked like a forced throw to Sky Moore. That's a kind of throw that I normally would expect Mahomes to make, down 6 late in the game, and he's trying to move the ball, kind of like last week in forcing the ball to Sky Moore. That's not normally a ball you see Mahomes throwing in the first half of a football game. And I thought that was just really out of character. But then after that, you saw, kind of back to basics, and you saw Kelce was the guy who continues to just get open all the time, no matter what he's facing. And I'll tell you what, I mean, particularly at his age and what he's doing, and considering I can still contend he's getting more defensive attention this year than he's probably ever gotten in his career. I mean, what he's doing is absolutely nuts because he's getting open all the freaking time. And this absolutely felt like it could have been another one of those games where it's Kelce or nothing. And I think Hardman absolutely helped out there. Those were a couple of big plays that he had, not just the first touchdown, but he had that really nice catch, on the kind of sidearm sling from Mahomes on the left side on that rollout that was really impressive. And after that, I mean, you felt and you saw Mahomes look like he just got into a rhythm and was playing pitch and catch with everybody. And everybody was getting open. I mean, this was a well-executed game plan. I mean, looking at a few of the plays, I mean, if no other reason, I mean, that screen to McKinnon was just an opera the way it was set up. I mean, throughout the entire game with Bosa. And I thought the broadcast did a really good job of explaining that. But this was just an all-around incredible performance from the offense.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned the broadcast because I thought there was other points that they also made that were great. And I know I saw you tweeting about this, Matt. Fortson targeted outside of the red zone a couple of different times. I thought I really liked that. Noah Gray got a catch. It looks like there was 10 different targets on the day. But the big thing for me looking at this game is Travis Kelce didn't go over 100. He was at 98 yards. But you have MVS going over 100 on 3 catches and Juju with 7 catches for 124 yards. That's if you can get that on a week in, week out basis, you're not going to be able to stop this offense. If you get those 3 guys going.
No, I mean, if you get 3 receivers at 98 yards, period, you're going to be in pretty good shape. But this was the best defense in the league. Exactly. I mean, statistically, this was the number 1 defense across the board. I mean, scoring, they were number 2, I guess, behind the Bills, but number 1 in yards, number 1 in yards per play. And I mean, maybe you got some questions about their early season schedule, but I mean, this is not a bad 49ers defense. And this was expected to be a much closer game. And the Chiefs just went out there and treated them like they were the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, I was really impressed with the offensive output, and I think it goes across the board. I mean, even if I don't know, Andy Reid could kind of do a little bait and switch with Isaiah Pacheco's the starter, but is he really the starter? Because other guys were getting all the work early on. That was just classic Andy Reid. I thought, like, okay, here the 49ers are confusing you with you don't know whether it's going to be Christian McCaffrey or somebody else in the backfield, and maybe he just woke up on Sunday morning. I doubt that. I mean, and you know what? Here's the crazy thing. It could have been. Because when they say that he was taking first-team reps, Isaiah Pacheco takes first-team reps all the time.
Every week.
All 3 of these guys take first-team reps all the time. So everything is true from a certain point of view. So, hey, if Andy Reid just did that for a little bit of a psychological edge, I wouldn't put it past him. Not saying he did it. Not saying he didn't. But if he did, I love it.
This is what it comes down to. Pacheco did get more carries, was 8-6 for him. But Pacheco, 17 yards. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 16. Hardman, a 25. A 45 for Juju. A 57 for MVS. A 27 for Travis. A 34 for McKinnon. 8 explosive chunk plays. The type that I term 15 yards or plus. That's an explosive play. They said they couldn't do this anymore, that the loss of Tyreek Hill took the explosion out of this offense. Does this put it to rest that finally, if they play the way they need to, that this offense is just as explosive as it used to be?
Yeah, this team went on a stretch in that scoring zone they went on with those 6 drives where they were averaging 10.5 yards a play. That is insane against anybody. This would be insane if they were going up against the 32nd ranked defense in the league, much less the team that was number 1, number 2, arguably in the league. So, to me, it really shows. I mean, the only thing if you want to quibble about anything in this game, I mean, you could quibble with just how effective was the traditional run game. Clyde's run was nice. That was a big one. But Pacheco was a little productive there towards the end, but it wasn't like they were just going great guns early on. And if anything, I mean, it was McCole Hardman's 2 runs for 28 yards that really made the ground game look impressive early on. At one point, McCole Hardman was the leading rusher on this team. So, I mean, that's the only quibble I could have with this performance today.
It's funny you mentioned that just because I'm sitting here looking at the stats. 5.4 average for Pacheco, 5.3 for Clyde, 6.0 for Jarek. So I understand why you're saying it because they didn't run the ball well at times, but they all had big runs that led to those larger averages. That plays into it. I do want to say one other thing really quick on Mahomes. 12.4 yards per attempt in the air.
Yeah.
If he does that on a regular basis, it's game over for just about any team that they're playing against. And honestly, I think I really like the 3 tight end set in this game because to me, I think that's actually what got the 49ers from being able to get pressure on Mahomes.
Yeah, that's one thing that I think has probably not been discussed enough about this today is that Mahomes had plenty of time to throw. Some of that was I thought there was better protection up front. Even though, hey, Nick Bosa had his moments, Nick Bosa is going to have his moments. Also, I mean, the 49ers had some problems in that aspect too. I mean, the offsides penalties cost them and jumping early cost them. So it wasn't just great for them either. But I thought the offensive line did a very good job. Mahomes did, I thought, a really good job as far as reading the blitzes. If Fortson had kind of picked up that blitz on the throw to him, I was kind of behind him a little bit on that 0 blitz the 49ers threw. That probably could have been a chunk play. But I thought Mahomes did a really good job. The receivers did a good job adjusting to that. Mahomes stood in there. I mean, I think they had the 1 sack. And other than that, I think that the pressure rate for the 49ers ended up being maybe about 11, 12%. That's enough time. And even though some of it was built around Mahomes getting rid of the football quickly, and he did that, and shortening the amount of time that he's taking, I mean, that helps. But I thought the offensive line looked better today. I mean, we'll see if they can back this up. But I thought that as the game went on, I thought they held up pretty nicely.
Well, really quick, I just want to finish real quick. I just was going to say the thing that really stood out to me when you start talking about the offensive line is Mahomes had enough plays downfield where and I don't have the stats because they're not out yet, but air yards is something I'm going to be very interested to look at because he was throwing the ball down the field more and had more deeper routes than I really remember him having in most of the games so far this season. If they got that figured out, I think that's really going to benefit this offense. Now, we need to talk about the defense, but first we need to talk about our sponsors at PrizePicks.
And they are the easiest way to play daily fantasy sports right now. A lot of fun. It's a simple maneuver. Is it more or is it less? They set a line. And for Monday Night Football this week, it's Mac Jones, who is rumored to start at 210 yards. Is he going to get more or less than that? If he gets less, they need to bench him for Bailey Zappi. I've been saying this all week. But you get to choose whether that happens or not. And if you're right, you get into the money. It's easy to play at PrizePicks. You can pick 2 to 5 players, lay those things online, win up to 10 times the money you put down. There's no competing against other people. It's not me versus Chris. It's me versus the results. And that's the way it works. PrizePicks works on any sport you can think of, even ones that I don't understand. It's super fast, easy, and safe. And that's what it comes down to. All you got to do is go download the PrizePicks app, any app store, whether you like the Apple flavor or not, or even go to prizepicks.com and sign up there to play daily fantasy sports. It's the first time you do that and you make a deposit, you'll get 100% bonus on that. You put 100 in, you get 100 for you. That's the way that it works. Don't forget, you have to use our code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON at prizepicks.com. Now, I think the thing that stood out to me, and Matt, you tell me, you mentioned it earlier, and I think it was very key because George Kittle's had a quiet season to this point, but did some things against the Chiefs. Brandon Ayuk just started to come on, had some things against the Chiefs. I don't know who their other receiver is. I think it was McLeod. I don't know what he does because he hasn't done anything yet. They clearly prepared by Steve Spagnuolo and Cullen and the whole crew to stop Deebo Samuel, and whatever else happens, come what may, they're going to deal with it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty effective. I mean, right there. I mean, and I thought there would be a little bit more focus on George Kittle. just because that's kind of what the offense usually starts with. But they let Kittle have his yards, and they never really got into a flow with it. I mean, you can look at the numbers: 6 catches, 98 yards, and a touchdown. That's a good line for George Kittle, especially since he's been having a tough season so far. Mm-hmm. But they weren't really concerned about that as much. You're right. I mean, they seemed to be damn determined to take out Deebo Samuel, and they absolutely did it. I mean, that just went absolutely nowhere. And you could see, I mean, that's a bread and butter of what the 49ers like to do. And they had to abandon it early. And then I think you saw there's not a whole lot after that. I mean, this 49ers offense is pretty one-dimensional. And the Chiefs defense, I mean, they did what they needed to do. There was only 2 quibbles I had the entire probably game. And one, obviously, was we talked about the first drive. That wasn't their best. But that other sequence was the 49ers scoring drive in the second half where, they had a couple of 1st and 20 situations. And, one of those was, set up by perfectly timed blitz from Willie Gay, and L'Jarius Sneed got in there and got sacked to help set that situation up. But this kind of happened before, is that, Spagnuolo goes for the knockout punch. And I don't mind that. I mean, that's probably what you like as a football fan. You want to see your defense go for it. But here's my catch. If you're going to go for the knockout punch and go for the haymaker, you got to hit. And they went after Garoppolo. They didn't get him. They convert 2 1st and 20s, 3rd and 10. You got Kittle in single coverage in the red zone. Not a great, option for me. But it comes back to the Chiefs during a lot of this game had to blitz in order to get pressure. And encouraging was that late in the game, they didn't have to do that anymore. And the only thing I have a caveat with that is that the 49ers offensive line was so beat up, and I think the offense in total was just broken, that I don't know how much you can take of that in. But the fact that the Chiefs front 4 by the end was just absolutely crushing that offensive line is at least a good step. I just don't know if it's going to be leading to production going forward.
I'm glad you point that out. I want to talk about it in just a second. I just want to say one other thing on Kittle. I think it's funny, both the tight ends in this game on National Tight End Day, 6 catches, 98 yards. Neither went over 100. It happens. The one thing I will say on the Kittle touchdown, Watson has to play inside. They talked about that on the broadcast. I'm also glad that it happened in this type of scenario where it's not going to cost Kansas City the game. He's going to learn that. He's going to be in better position. You have to look at what's going to happen after the bye. This team is probably going to get back. I would think maybe Fenton and McDuffie. They're going to be a lot healthier, and they're going to have their CBs are going to be a lot better. The one thing I want to throw out on the D-line, I am absolutely loving what I'm seeing when they have Frank Clark, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and Carlos Dunlap on the field together. When they just start mixing and matching those guys and putting them in different spots and rushing Dunlap inside, rushing Karlaftis inside, letting Jones and Clark be on the outside. And I will say this, I think that we saw a little bit more from Frank Clark than what we've seen most of this season. His get off on that safety looked like the Frank Clark of old just a little bit. And I think he's finally getting healthy. And now we're going into a bye week. So there's hope that this pass rush is going to be even better coming out of the bye.
Hey, there's no doubt. Steve Spagnuolo will tell you he loves his 3rd and long package. If they can get into 3rd and long where they can put those guys on the field and let them go at it, they're going to get some things done. The problem has been getting teams into 3rd and disadvantaged situations.
Yeah. One thing that did pop up tonight that I had copious notes on a couple of times is, like you talked about earlier, getting pressure, having to blitz. They got some of that done. A couple of times guys didn't get there, just what looked like subpar effort on a couple of plays. And then it caught them going, I think it was north at one point in that stadium where you have the sun on the right-hand side of the screen or the top side, what you're seeing. There was a couple of times that you just felt like Garoppolo knew it was coming. He was hitting all those hot routes because Spags just, it's like a switch. Once he turns it on, he doesn't feather it. He doesn't drop into a zone unless for some reason he decides to drop Derek Nottie of all people into a zone. Yes, I saw that, Spags. Don't think you got that past me. But
Saunders did it too.
You're okay with calling Saunders, but Derek Nottie's a bridge too far.
Saunders can do it. That's the difference. Yes. But yeah, I think that they got caught in a couple of ways where it is more about changing up. So I do think that this was a better defensive game plan, but I do think it has a ways to go still as well. Okay, good. I'm glad we all agree.
No disagreement here.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I'm just encouraged because I also liked what I saw from Willie Gay at times. And his first game back, the offensive touchdown in the first half for the 49ers, I don't think he was on the field. They brought in Darius Harris. They eased Willie Gay back into the game plan. I think that was part of what they were feeling that they needed to do since he's been out for a month. And I think he'll be ready to go. I think this defense is going to be a lot more fun to watch in the second half of the season.
I mean, you look individually, there was a couple of guys who had really nice days. And, I thought, Gay had a very nice day. Nick Bolton, I thought, had some really good moments too. Juan Thornhill might have had his best game of the season across the board. Chris Jones, obviously, is Chris Jones. I mean, this defense goes with Chris Jones, and he had another one of those days today. So individually, a lot of these guys had some really nice games. And, were there some breakdowns at time? Yeah, but I mean, still, when you've got a team, especially like the 49ers, that were trying to play catch up and going up and down the field in the second half, they couldn't get it done. And that's at least something positive for this defense.
Yeah, I think you have to think that. Everyone knows my proclivity. I respect Snead's game. He is my guy, but he nearly blew it today. That swing cannot happen again. I think it's a sign, though, when arguably the best player on the defense outside of Chris Jones is so visibly frustrated at what was happening early. Normally, I see the defense crumble after that. Yes, it was a terrible thing. He probably dodged a bullet very, very narrowly of getting not only penalized, but ejected. I think that was the turning point. When that frustration built, they were able to overcome it and get back on track. Matt, did you see anything different?
No, it was just a good fortune that the officials saw everything that was happening and saw that, hey, there was a reason why that occurred, and it was both ways, and you could have probably thrown a flag on either one of them. Usually it's a case where the official only sees the second half of it and not the first half, and that's when you get in trouble. So, no, that was at least good luck for his part. But yeah, I mean, there absolutely did. I mean, you looked at where this game was in the first half, and and we have seen some instances where, it has been the offense picking up the defense in the early part of the season. This was I think the exact opposite to me. I mean, this is a case where I think you saw defense got in a hole early that maybe a little bit of their own making, maybe not. I mean, and I am listening to Andy Reid on one of my ears right now. And so I will say that something that I suspected, which is that the interception was probably more on Sky Moore than on Patrick. Sky didn't exactly maybe be in this exact spot where he was supposed to. So maybe that's maybe a reason why that ball looks so forced. But the interception sets up the 49ers, gets you into a hole, and the defense was on its heels. The offense bails them out. The offense goes down and scores a bunch of points, and now the defense is like playing free and easy. And you can see how that can happen. I mean, I think the defensive performance in the second half, a lot of that was feeding off of the offense and just feeling, like that they could pin their ears back and go after this team because they trusted that, hey, even if they didn't get a stop, the offense was going to be there and bail them out too.
I have to ask really quick, Matt, do you think that Sky Moore is done as the punt returner?
I can't say done. I mean, I certainly don't think that the Chiefs want to do anything to shatter his confidence and erode that in any way whatsoever. He's got a lot to learn. I mean, what you're seeing are inexperienced rookie mistakes, and not even completely rookie mistakes, because remember, this is a guy who didn't return punts in college. So It's all brand new for him. I still go back to Dave Tobe telling us during training camp that their most reliable catcher of punts is Trent McDuffie. I don't know if they're going to feel comfortable putting him back there fresh off the injury, but if they just want somebody to make fair catches, Trent McDuffie is the guy.
I think I can live with that. I hope that I do. Folks, we'll have more in-depth reaction for you tomorrow as we dig through the stats and the snaps, et cetera, et cetera. Matt will be back for Wednesday. Don't miss that. Thanks for listening to us
What
tonight.
about game balls?
Oh, I always forget. There's a win. So, okay. Matt, you're in charge. Go ahead.
All right. I will take the lowest of the low-hanging fruit and go with the side of the football that scored 44 points and ignore the interception and just say Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. LOL. 423 yards, 3 touchdowns. You take out the interception, and he had a Hall of Fame game. So, Patrick Mahomes, game ball.
Rock and roll. Okay.
Mine's going to Michael Hardman, and I know that's low-hanging fruit because of 3 touchdowns, but I really do think that the way he scored his touchdowns is going to change the way defenses are going to have to defend this team going forward, and I think that's a big thing for this offense.
Okay. My game is going to be a little bit crazy. I'm comfortable with it, though. My ball goes to Frank Clark. I don't remember the last safety this defense actually produced. I don't remember the time that after getting their butt kicked in the first 3 drives, they came back like this. So kudos to him. Shark still lives. Let's just hope that he's rested up enough that we can see this again. So kudos, Frank. One night you got it. Let's see what you do next. Folks, thanks for making us your first listen. Check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. You will hear the Chiefs on that tonight. It's the biggest stories of every sport everywhere. It's on Odyssey, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Matt, thanks for the time. We'll hope that you enjoy the pressers with Coach Reid, and we'll get back with you later.
Take care, guys. Take care, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow.